Pokémon might look bright and cheerful on the surface, but behind the battles and adventures are stories darker than most fans ever expected. Here is every killed-off character in Pokémon.
While exploring the Pokémon Tower, Red discovers that the ghost is Cubone's mother, and a battle between Red and Team Rocket begins. They are then defeated with help from baby Cubone. After the battle, Cubone's mother is able to say goodbye before passing on.
If you've ever wondered what the darkest storyline in Pokémon is, you don't have to look much further than Lavender Town. Buried under all the creepy music and ghostly atmosphere is one of the saddest, most scandalous tales in the entire franchise. It starts with Team Rocket, because of course it does. They were running one of their shady operations, trying to capture Pokémon to sell off like merchandise. And in the middle of all this chaos was a little Cubone, cornered and helpless, about to be snatched away like property. Just when everything looked hopeless, Cubone's mother Marowak stepped in. She fought off the grunts, giving her child a chance to escape. But here's where it gets brutal. While Cubone ran, probably waiting for his mother to catch up, Marowak stayed behind to protect him. Team Rocket, furious and humiliated, pulled out electric batons and beat her to death. The worst part? Cubone could hear everything. The screams of his dying mother haunted him, scarring him for life. This is the exact reason Cubone is always depicted as such a tragic, lonely Pokémon. His iconic skull helmet isn't just for show, it's a constant reminder of the mother he lost. The story doesn't stop with her death, though, because Marowak's spirit didn't move on peacefully. She died in pain, in anger, and with the crushing fear of not knowing if her child was safe. That grief twisted into something far worse, a ghost. In Pokémon Tower, trainers talk about a strange spirit that doesn't act like any ghost-type Pokémon. It screams, it rages, and it refuses to let people near. For years, fans pieced it together. The ghost in Lavender Town isn't just any ghost, it's Marowak's restless soul, stuck between worlds. And then came Red. Unlike the terrified trainers who avoided the tower, he dug deeper, figuring out the mystery. When he helped Cubone reunite with his mother's spirit, it gave her something she never had when she died: closure. Marowak finally saw her child alive and safe, and in that moment, her restless energy faded. She was able to let go, disappearing into peace at last. For a franchise built on bright colors and cute creatures, this is one of those storylines that feels ripped out of a horror movie. A child left traumatized, a mother killed in cold blood, and a ghost haunting a cemetery until someone gave her a reason to rest. It's dark, it's tragic, and it's the kind of story you never forget once you've heard it.
Jessie from Team Rocket has the most tragic yet awe-inspiring backstory in the entirety of the Pokemon franchise. From her early life all the way to the end of the franchise where she departs with her friends James and Meowth, Jessie has always been faced with challenges.
When people talk about tragic backstories in Pokemon, Jessie from Team Rocket doesn't always get the sympathy she deserves. She's painted as this over-the-top, dramatic villain. But when you peel back the layers, her childhood was defined by one of the most heartbreaking deaths in the series. Her mother, Miyamoto, wasn't just some ordinary woman. She was a high-ranking Team Rocket agent working directly under Madam Boss, Giovanni's mother. That means Jessie was born into danger without ever asking for it. Miyamoto's biggest mission was tied to one of the most mysterious Pokemon of all time, Mew. Team Rocket had gotten wind of Mew's existence, and Madam Boss wanted it captured at any cost. Miyamoto led the squad, and for a while it seemed like she was actually going to succeed. In the snowy mountains, she managed to track Mew down, a feat almost nobody else in the world could brag about. But the story takes a dark turn here. Instead of glory, her discovery became her death sentence. Mew triggered a devastating avalanche, burying Miyamoto and the entire team alive. Just like that, Jessie's mother was gone. Jessie was still just a little girl when this happened. All she was left with were faint, blurry memories of her mom and the hollow space her absence left behind. Growing up, Jessie bounced between poverty, broken dreams, and bad choices. She once even tried to become a nurse like Joy, but she couldn't keep up. Without guidance and with nothing to anchor her, she eventually fell into the life of crime that defined her adulthood, following the very same path her mother had walked. It's tragic irony at its finest. Miyamoto died chasing Mew for Team Rocket, and Jessie ended up pledging her life to Team Rocket's cause, without even fully understanding the shadow hanging over her. What makes this story even darker is that it's never fully fleshed out in the main anime. Instead, it lives in the background, whispered about by fans who've connected the dots from manga, radio dramas, and snippets of dialogue. It's almost like the franchise tried to bury Miyamoto's story, just like the avalanche buried her body. But when you think about Jessie's attitude, her hunger for recognition, her bitterness, her desperate need to prove herself, it all makes sense once you know what she lost. Miyamoto's death isn't just a tragic Pokémon moment, it's one of the scandals of the entire series. A mother sacrificed on a reckless mission, a child left behind to grow up in the shadow of her choices, and a legacy of tragedy that shaped one of the most infamous characters in Pokémon history.
They were able to talk about all the joys of life, and Amber 2 says that it doesn't matter if you're cloned deep down. But that was until Amber 2's cloning experiment failed. Fuji's wife was saddened by the loss of their daughter, and she leaves Dr. Fuji and tells him he needs to accept the loss.
Hidden behind the chaos of creating Mewtwo is one of the Pokémon franchise's most overlooked tragedies, the death of Dr. Fuji's daughter, Amber. Unlike the flashy villain deaths or the dramatic sacrifices, Amber's story is quiet, personal, and utterly heartbreaking. Dr. Fuji wasn't just a scientist obsessed with Pokémon, he was a grieving father who couldn't let go of his child. After Amber passed away, he threw himself into genetic experiments, desperate to bring her back. This obsession led him straight into the hands of Team Rocket and Giovanni, who saw an opportunity to weaponize science for their own goals. In the process of creating Mewtwo, Dr. Fuji also tried cloning Amber. For a brief moment, it seemed like his plan might actually work. In cut content from the first Pokémon movie and surrounding lore, Amber's consciousness interacts with Mewtwo in a dreamlike space. They talk, they laugh, they exist together in a fragile bubble of false hope. But like all unstable clones, Amber's body couldn't hold on. She faded away right in front of Mewtwo, leaving behind nothing but the memory of their bond. That's right, before Mewtwo ever fought Mew, before it ever rebelled against humanity, it had already experienced the grief of watching someone die. Amber's second death shattered Dr. Fuji, but it also shaped Mewtwo in ways fans often overlook. That loss planted the seeds of loneliness and anger in Mewtwo, fueling its rage against the humans who manipulated life and death for their own gain. In a twisted way, Amber's existence was both a comfort and a curse. It gave Mewtwo its first true connection, but also its first heartbreak. For a creature struggling to understand what it meant to live, starting life with death as its first memory is almost too cruel. The scandal here is that Amber's story was essentially erased from the mainstream Pokémon canon. Most fans never even hear her name unless they dig into cutscenes or supplemental material. But when you think about it, Amber is the emotional backbone of Mewtwo's entire story. Without her, its hatred for humanity would feel shallow. With her, it suddenly makes sense. Mewtwo didn't just lose faith in humans, it lost faith in love, family, and trust before it even had a chance to begin. Amber may not have had the spotlight, but her death lingers like a ghost in the background of Pokémon history. It's one of those tragedies that's almost too raw for the franchise to confront head-on. But once you know about it, you can't unsee the weight it carries. When people remember the first Pokémon movie, they usually talk about Ash turning to stone and every kid in the theater crying. But what often gets overlooked is the sheer body count Mewtwo racked up before that emotional climax. The moment Mewtwo awakened, it wasn't the innocent birth of a legendary Pokémon, it was a massacre. The scientists who spent years splicing DNA, tinkering with clones, and pushing nature past its limits didn't get to celebrate their success. Instead, they became Mewtwo's first victims. With one devastating psychic blast, the lab was obliterated, killing everyone inside. In one breath, Mewtwo went from experiment to executioner. What makes it even more scandalous is that these weren't just nameless casualties. Dr. Fuji was among them, the man who had lost his daughter Amber and poured his grief into these experiments. He wasn't just building Mewtwo for science, he was trying to cheat death. But when Mewtwo destroyed the lab, all of that pain and desperation went up in flames with him. In a way, Mewtwo didn't just kill its creators, It killed the last fragments of Fuji's dream. And then, of course, comes the infamous clash between Mew and Mewtwo. The two legends unleashed power so terrifying that it dwarfed every battle the anime had ever shown before. But the moment that scarred a generation was Ash running into the crossfire, trying to stop the fight. He was struck by their combined blast and instantly turned to stone. The silence that followed wasn't just dramatic, it was horrifying. Pikachu crying, the Pokémon weeping, kids in theaters sobbing right along with them. It was a scene that proved Pokémon wasn't just about happy adventures. Death could touch even the main character. Of course, Ash was revived by the tears of Pokémon, a miracle that softened the blow. But let's not sugarcoat it. Mewtwo's awakening marked one of the bloodiest events in the franchise. Entire research teams gone, a father's obsession ending in ruin, and the world's chosen one killed in front of everyone before being yanked back to life. This wasn't some villain twirling his mustache and plotting from the shadows. This was a Pokémon lashing out against a world that had created it in chains. The irony is that Mewtwo's rampage wasn't just senseless destruction, it was born out of pain, Amber's death, years of manipulation, and humanity's arrogance. But to everyone else, it was murder on a scale that Pokémon had never shown before. And that's why Mewtwo's first steps into the world remain some of the darkest ever taken in the franchise.
Pikachu, which was pretty humorous to the Gengar line. Second time was in the first Pokemon movie where Mew and Mewtwo's attacks turn him into stone. And fun fact, there's a legend in the movie that Pokemon tears restore life. So all you gotta do is make a Pokemon cry to have immortality.
For a character who's supposed to be the face of Pokémon, Ash Ketchum has a shockingly high death count. The franchise never officially calls them permanent, but if you've followed the anime and movies closely, you know Ash has died more times than any main character in a so-called kids show should. And each one comes with its own mix of drama, heartbreak, and, honestly, scandal for a series that tries so hard to stay lighthearted. The most famous case, of course, is in the very first movie when he throws himself between Mew and Mewtwo's blasts. In a split second, the boy who dreamed of becoming a Pokémon master turns to stone. Pikachu desperately shocks his lifeless body over and over, as if sheer willpower could bring him back. The sight of all the Pokémon crying together, literally resurrecting him with their tears, was so powerful it had theaters full of kids bawling. Ash may have come back, but nobody forgot the fact that he really did die in that moment. But that wasn't the only time. In the Kanto series, Ash and Pikachu both lose their souls in Lavender Town when a Gengar drops a chandelier on them. Their spirits float outside their bodies, laughing and playing with ghost types, while their actual bodies lie motionless. For most of that episode, Ash and Pikachu are basically dead until their souls are shoved back in. It's treated like a gag, but when you think about it, that's some horror movie material right there. Then come the movies, where Ash's brush with death becomes almost routine. In Pokémon, the movie, Victini and Zekrom/Reshiram, Ash freezes to death in outer space, only to be saved in the final moment. In Pokémon I Choose You, an alternate universe retelling of his journey, Ash literally gets nuked in a Pokémon war. He's been electrocuted, drowned, suffocated, and petrified so many times that fans joke he's basically immortal. The thing is, each death carries weight. They show Ash's selflessness. He'll throw himself into danger to protect others, even if it costs him his life. But at the same time, it's almost scandalous how casually the franchise revives him every time, like nothing happened. For kids watching, those scenes were traumatic. For adults looking back, it makes you realize how often Pokémon flirted with themes far darker than we expected. Ash may still be alive today, but his many deaths are proof that being the face of Pokémon doesn't make you safe. If anything, it just means the writers kept finding new ways to break your heart. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.